Hi, I'm Ken Jr. and welcome to Train World TV. Here you'll find the latest and greatest in model trains. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. And if you're new to our channel, we're glad you're here, and I invite you to click the subscribe button and hit that bell notification so you'll never miss a video. Now, we'd also love to send you exclusive deals and special announcements that you won't find anywhere else. So be sure to sign up for our emails, TW Text, and stay connected with us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Now, you can find all the links in the description box below or trainworld.com. And without further ado, enjoy today's video. All right, and good morning, everybody, and welcome to Train World TV. We have a bright and early morning show for you today, so I hope you grabbed your coffee, and we're going to talk about Broadway Limited, and we have a bunch of great guests. We have Curtis from Broadway Limited, Director of Marketing and Social Media. How you doing, Curtis?
Good morning, guys. Great to be with you again. Let's get into a lot of great projects coming your way in both HO and N scale today.
All right, and thanks for joining us early this morning. And we have Tony Koch of Model Train Resource, Model Railroad News. How you doing, Tony?
Hey, good morning, Ken. How you doing? Yeah, wow. We're going to get you an early morning set. I need one of those sets where people can walk around behind you, like in a glass thing, like NBC has on the Today Show, and wave. We need one of those sets for you now.
That's right. And James Wright JLWII2000 on YouTube. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing this morning?
Perfect. Very good. And you're sounding great now. You're back in action.
And James, congratulations. What is I'm forgetting the number now. How many years have you been doing videos?
I just hit 15 in June.
Wow. Yeah. I'm starting my 14th year with Model Railroad News. Does it seem like it though?
Yeah,
it doesn't
pretty quick.
Yeah, when you think, wow, really? And it's like,
the
yeah,
saying goes, time flies when you're having fun.
I think so.
That's right. And we got Philip joining us from Oregon. Not sure, but 6 a.m. very early. And Stephen, yes, this is live right now. Chris can't wait for the models, so thank you everybody for joining. And we're also going to be raffling off a Broadway Limited hat. So make sure you tune in. Actually, you know what? Let's start it off so we get the comments rolling, and we'll keep it going throughout the segment. So put in the chat, let's say hashtag Broadway Limited and the state you're from, and we'll pick out a winner today for a Broadway Limited hat. And we'll do reminders throughout the course of this live stream, and I'm sure we'll get a bunch of repeats today. We got an email going out for today's replay of the video. But a bunch of topics to cover: HO and N scale, new product, new announcements, tons of reminders. So, Curtis, I don't even know where to start.
Well, there's a couple of important deadlines. Let's get to that first.
Okay.
For today is the order deadline to get your orders in for our second run of GP30s. So if you haven't gotten your order in with them yet, we got a bunch of new road names: Santa Fe, Reading, Milwaukee Road, Southern Pacific, just to name a few. So if you haven't gotten your order in for that second run of GP30s, do so today. Tomorrow is the deadline to get your orders in for our heavyweight business cars for both the Pennsylvania Railroad and the generic versions that we've done, as well as the 5-car set. So we've got 5-car sets of PRR era specifics with the 30s, 40s, and 50s. We've got a couple of different specific roads with Canadian National, Chesapeake and Ohio, a Christmas scheme, and one other I can't remember off the top of my head, but you can go ahead and get your orders in for those 5-car sets. And again, all that is the order deadline for those cars is tomorrow. So you have today and tomorrow to get your orders in before we take all orders and are guarantee that if you make your pre-order purchase between now and then, you'll get your models when they arrive. So that's the best way to reserve yours today. So that's the first two important things, as we got those deadlines coming up today and tomorrow.
And Curtis, I know we have a ton to talk about, but I do want to talk about the two projects that you just brought up. The GP30, we were looking at the orders yesterday so we could get ready to prepare and push them out. And some really cool paint schemes that you did. Let me scroll up and bring this up here. But I did notice a couple of winners that I just wanted to bring to people's attention, because most likely it's going to sell out quickly. They did do the Reading, and this paint scheme is pretty unique, different, and generically Reading is kind of like people forget about, but for some reason, for the GP30, people were pre-ordering this pretty heavy.
Yeah, well, the 5513 that you have pulled up there is actually still, I think, in operation, or the group is working on getting it restored to operation again. But that was also the first production model of the GP30 that EMD built. So that has a special significance, not only just for Reading modelers, but for the history of EMD's production of their diesels. So that has the appropriate short fuel tender, the horn placement on the cab there. So that row number in particular has a lot of significance to Reading modelers, and especially if you like, modeling some excursion trains that can fit into the later eras of like the 80s and 90s or so. So that's got a bit of significance to it as well. But yeah, that paint scheme has been heavily requested. When we first announced the first run of GP30s, all the Reading guys came out in full force, said, please make them in your second run. Please make them your second run. So we listened and offered it. And those have been very, very popular.
So James and Tony are going to take notes, because that will probably be on one of their reviews for sure. And also, you did a fantasy scheme, the U.S. Air Force, which I don't think anyone's really covered U.S. Air Force. I know we've kind of worked together on some Army, but U.S. Air Force, this is really cool. It kind of gives that bicentennial feel.
Yeah.
And the orders have been tremendous on this.
Yeah, and a lot of those special like military paint schemes, or even like the support our troops paint schemes that we've done that are fantasy schemes, always do very, very well. And our graphic designer, Stephen Wilder, does a great job in kind of using the concept of some of the military planes and equipment that they use and implementing it onto those engines. Like the Shark Noses was another recent run we did where we had a couple of different military themed paint schemes, and they just looked really, really cool. That one's probably my favorite fantasy military themed paint scheme that we've done in offering these themed paint schemes, and it just looks so cool. It does give a very good bicentennial theme to it. So I know we passed the 4th of July already, but if you're looking for something to add, maybe you yourself have served in the Air Force, or somebody you know has served in the Air Force, that's a great addition to any railroad that you have.
Very neat. And also we are doing a custom run with you guys, and we're going to continue with the fantasy Shark Nose GP30, and your artists really did a great job with this, and we kind of got a different take on it than the SD70 that we did with you guys. But all these really do very well, so make sure you get your pre-order in, because they do sell out quickly. And I think even on I think we're doing the SD70 Shark Nose with you guys, and I think we're close to, if not already sold out, so we're not even pushing that. So make sure you get your order in for the GP30. They do extremely well, and quantities are limited. But the GP30 is really cool, unique, and it was brand new tooling the first time around. I think you just released it maybe like 6 months ago for the first
about 7 or
run.
8 months ago. Yeah, we had
Yeah.
that. And the other cool thing about this new run of GP30s and GP35s too that we've done is that we were also doing some patched versions. The Chinese red Burlington one, we have the BN patched version that when the railroads merged to form Burlington Northern, they obviously couldn't paint all their locomotives right away. So they redid the artwork on it and just patched the number. You'll notice underneath the cab logo there where the Burlington logo is, you'll see the road number, and then you'll see the BN stencil beneath it. That was what they did when they finally merged to Burlington Northern, and that was with the CB&Q, Great Northern, and Northern Pacific when they all formed Burlington Northern together.
Very neat. And I know we have a ton to cover, but you also mentioned the passenger cars. And I tell you, people are going crazy over your passenger cars that you have just announced. And we'll later talk about the Kinetic cars, but the business cars have done extremely well. Pre-orders are continue to roll in. 5 packs, Pennsylvania. You could never go wrong with, as Ken Silvestri, that's his favorite line.
It is, yep.
He'll slap Pennsylvania on anything. But really a lot of choices, different paint schemes, tons of flavor. So really neat.
Yeah, and those schemes are all based on the Pennsylvania Railroad design, and we've got some really cool paint schemes that really haven't been quite offered very readily, and that like the CSX business car Philadelphia. If you're trying to model the CSX Santa train by chance, that's a great car to add to your fleet. If you have the UP business cars, if you want to add to the Kennefic, you can get the heavyweight version up there too. The 5-car sets are just a great addition to your railroad, especially with some of the Pennsylvania Railroad locomotives that we'll get into a little bit later on that we announced, including the big one. That will be a perfect addition to your passenger fleet too, and then also individual cars there too. So if you already have a passenger train, you just want to add a business car on the rear just for the heck of it, you can do it that way too. So there's a lot of fun different areas that you can go with these cars. All have individually controlled LED lighting. So there's the lights above the platform that work, of course, the interior lights. All that stuff is individually controlled, and all have accurate PRR details on them too. So whichever way you want to go with these cars, you're going to have a really nicely done car, but with multiple lighting features, and it's going to look right at home on your railroad.
Chris wants them in N scale.
We're working on them for N scale. We're working on them for N scale. And every time we announce something new for HO, the N scalers come out in full force wanting it in N scale. And a lot of them we're working on. We were just talking about the GP30s. We're working on those for N scale. These business cars we're working on for N scale too. Yeah, we won't have an announcement for a while as we're still in the design process of it, but we are working on it. So N scalers, I know you're very patient. Just keep sticking around. We'll have those announced eventually.
And Philip wants to know Pensy dining car coming, so cross our fingers.
Yeah, not yet. We have a lot of other passenger cars in the works right now, but none dining cars at the moment. But that could be on the list for maybe 3 or 4 years down the road when it comes to it.
Very neat. And Tony and James, what are you guys most excited about over the GP30s or the business cars? Are you guys reviewing diesels or passenger cars? What do you think?
I'm really excited about the business cars. I've been bothering Curtis pretty regularly, trying to cram every idea I can down his throat regarding the business cars, because that was kind of my first love as a modeler, was the Union Pacific Excursion fleet. So way back at the beginning of my channel 15 years ago, which is hard to believe, one of the first videos was 844 and all the passenger cars, and Broadway Limited is really coming to meet that demand that's been just building up over years, and I think you guys are seeing it in the pre-orders. But Union Pacific business modelers need something to go on the tail end of their cars or of their consists, and a lot of cars that are just specialty cars that are hard to just find or kit bash or otherwise procure in the hobby. So that's what I'm most excited about. Usually it's locomotives, but right now it's passenger cars.
I think the CSX business car fleet is the one that I've seen the most emails on of people excited on those the group of non-Pennsy roads for those Pennsy heavyweights. But boy, that CSX group seems to be very exciting.
Yeah, and the possibilities are endless for us when it comes to these sort of things, because once the orders come in and you just see how successful they are, especially with like the Kennefic type of cars, that opens up so many opportunities for us. I was telling James a couple days ago, but Matt has already put me in charge of getting the design stuff or the specs and stuff for a couple other UP passenger cars that would go with it. So we'll have some more of those at some point down the road. But we have the other business cars that would go along with the Kennefic, the Cheyenne, the Feather River, Lone Star or / Lincoln, and I can't remember the other one off the top of my head, but we got the other 4 designed too. So at some point we'll bring those into production. But we've been very, very pleased with the pre-orders coming in for the Kennefic car. And especially with the different drumhead versions, it just adds so many different modeling options for you for your business train. I know, James, when we did a video for you, you said that you ordered all of them because you wanted to make sure that you had different options for your excursion fleet too. So those cars are going to be fantastic. The lighted drum heads, I think, is going to be something that a lot of people are going to really be excited about, and the other individually controlled lighting details too.
Sorry, but this is a great segue from the business passenger cars to the Kennefic cars. Can you explain, because a lot of people saw the announcement and they saw different choices of numbers, and you're talking about drum heads. Can you explain the difference between each car, because they're all kind of UP, but they're all unique. So if you can explain each drum head and what exactly that means, the difference, and why people should really collect one of each, like James and Tony will be doing.
Yeah, well, UP excursion cars in general and excursion fleets in general are very popular. I know for myself, I probably have been to 6 or 7 different train shows this year so far, and I think 5 of them have featured a UP excursion train of some sort. And whether you want to do it with your modern diesels, if you're not a steam fan, basically the car itself is the same. So the details on it are all authentic. It's the railings on the back right there that are different, and that drumhead, that big circle in the middle, features different artworks of what the actual car, the Kennefic car, wore throughout the many years of different excursion stuff. So right there, that's the George Bush funeral train version of the car, which the Kennefic was on the rear of that consist when the railroad carried the former president to his resting place. And the drumhead there was on the back of that car on that special move in Texas. The other cars that we have, the Big Boy Tour, the Kennefic was on the back of that one in 2019 when it went all across the Midwest and the West and stuff. And that logo there was on the back of that car. So if you have one of our big boys, our diecast big boys, it's perfect addition to your excursion fleet there to have an accurate train. And if you also have any of the other special locomotives that we're doing, there's just so many options, so you can pick and choose which way you want to go in terms of what excursion train you want to model. There's a Spirit of 1943 or Spirit of Union Pacific, which is based off of the actual SD70 Ace that is painted in a special Union Pacific scheme. And that is also perfect to go on the back of that train. That train ran in Omaha. They had a special trip in Omaha that was planned to kind of honor UP employees. And that was the drumhead that the Kennefic car wore on that too.
Oh, wow.
And there's just the regular shield. So if you want to mix your car in your consist, kind of like the railroad does when it's moving equipment, whether it be like the Super Bowl train, when the railroad's executives hop on their cars and they go to like Las Vegas for the Super Bowl or whatever, the actual just UP shield behind what would be behind the drumhead is there. So if you just kind of want the plain version, that's the one that you could grab too. So you can kind of pick and choose which one you want to get and which one you want to model, but all of which are prototypically accurate. So if you wanted to, pick one and then maybe model a different train, the reason why you pick up all 4 is because there's so many different options that you can go with that, and having those cars mixed in your consist is the perfect way to go for it.
And the price is just outstanding, especially compared to brass. But
I was just telling Ken before we went on, I was like, if you wanted to get one of these cars, the brass market is like maybe $1,500, James, right? Something like that.
pushing 1,000.
Yeah, pushing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
at least 1,000. So these cars are definitely for a MSRP of $129.99. And of course, you can get it ordered from Train World for a cheaper price than that. These are fantastic cars to go for your excursion fleet. And there you go. You see the write-up that Model Railroader News did on these cars. And I know Harry is very excited for these, Tony. And I know you've been saying that these are really exciting. You've been getting a lot of emails on these cars too. So yeah, like I said, we're really thrilled about these so far. And it just, again, opens up the opportunity to offer more of these type of cars into the market for us. And like I said earlier, we've got some other stuff in the works similar to these cars. So stay tuned for that.
I think they're so exciting both on the quality, all the stuff that's in them. They're correct for the modern UP Excursion stuff, which is, as James mentioned, is always a want because we've got all kinds of big steam locomotives, but then sometimes we fall short on you don't have all the equipment outside of specialty brass releases. But then the biggest thing is the price. I mean, Ken, I think you got these $103, which when you think of the lighting and everything else in them, it's like they are not only one of the neatest releases of the year, it's probably one of the coolest values of the year too. And did I see the date for the deadline? Because Curtis, we did a video on these recently, but the deadline date has moved up because production's rolling on these, right?
Yeah, there was a little bit of a communication with our factory, and that we were just getting so many orders in that we kind of decided to swap it with the heavyweight generic business cars. So in order for us to do that and to get them out by the end of this year, which is what our factory has said that they're going to try to do, we actually bumped up the order deadline. We were originally set for October, and we bumped them up to a few days earlier. So now the new order deadline for these cars is actually August 9th. So you got just under a month to go to get your order in on these. And we haven't set a final number to the factory yet on what the official number is. So we're still taking orders for another month. So if you've been holding off on it for whatever reason, or maybe you have one on order, but now after seeing this, you want to get the other three, you can go ahead and still do so. Like I said, we have another month or so until we finally give the final number to the factory, but we are well above what we initially thought we could sell on these. And we've been very pleased to keep just expanding that number, man. Just keeps going up and up for us. And like I said, it just opens up the door for other stuff coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, I don't risk it on skipping pre-orders anymore because I've been bit too many times by that, especially recently. So definitely was not going to risk it this time.
And it's the best way to just reserve the one that you want. And also it's just the best way to guarantee that you get it, because we'll get customers that call in all the time. Like, for example, we're all sold out of the big boys. But we'll get customers that call in asking if we still have any, and it's like, no. And then it's like, oh, you didn't place a pre-order, like you could have reserved it, and I get it. Like everybody's financial situation is different, but it really is the best way to reserve the locomotive or piece of rolling stock that you want. And when the time comes, then you get it. And then it's just so much worth it in the end. And I know Ken and his team over at Train World do a great job of collecting pre-orders and everything like that. And it really is just truly the best way to get your order in and reserve the model you want.
Yeah, and even on the big boys from Broadway Limited, it's always like, well, there's always so many big boys. Like, how many? And then it just sells out. It was like tremendous. So the pre-orders are really important, because just like the big boy, you don't think that it's going to sell out quickly, and it does. So these Knappich cars, like Curtis was saying, that even Broadway had to keep on, upping the number. We're doing the same thing. There's so many pre-orders out there on this car, and anticipation and demand. And I expect they're going to sell out quickly. So make sure you get your pre-order on these, because it probably will be the biggest blockbuster hit for HO this year.
Wow. I'm glad to hear that. That's always great to hear that.
Well, if you think about it, everybody, models UP. UP is the biggest theme, and for a passenger car at that price, with the amount of details and the cool history behind it, it's just you guys really hit a home run here.
And all the lights too. I mean, a lot of guys ask us, "Are you going to add more lighting to stuff?" And all the lights on those cars are individually controlled, so you can, turn on the ditch lights if you want to, turn on and off the drum head, the interior, the marker lights at the top of the car. All that stuff are going to be individually controlled. So these are great cars, and if we haven't convinced you enough already, get your order in before it's too late on these cars, because they're going to be great. So we're really excited for those, like I mentioned.
We're on a trip right now with a lot of those cars that will be added to the consist. So
yeah,
it's something that's always out there and something that's very much needed. So glad you guys are doing it.
Yeah, so are we.
And so the deadline on that now is August
9th.
And what's the ETA you're looking at then? Is it still early 20? Or were these end of this year maybe?
They were going to be originally in like late or early spring of 2025, but now we're hoping that our factory has told us that they can get it in by the end of this year. Wow. So a couple months ahead of time. So again, yeah, that's why we had to bump up the order deadline, so they have enough time to go ahead and make the cars. The tooling is pretty much done. So it's really just a matter of them scheduling when they want to put it into production. So these will be coming by the end of this year. Again, that's what our factory has told us. So again, or August 9th, you got a little under a month, so you got some time still. But like you said, get your orders in. It's a great car. Everybody loves UP. Don't miss out on these, because otherwise you might be having to cough up more money to try to get the brass version of this car, because we're going to be completely sold out on these.
And Curtis, Chris is asking, I'm not sure if this is too technical or specific, you may know, but he wants to know if you could swap the shells on the passenger cars. I'm not sure.
On the Kennefic cars?
Yeah.
The shield.
I guess the shield.
So the shield on the actual generic version, that's going to be molded into the railing. So unless you get some aftermarket parts where you want to remove the railing and then add it, you could do that. But the shield themselves are going to be molded in, and then the drum heads are going to be also molded in, and that's just so that way we can get the wiring through there for the PCB board and the lighting and stuff on those drum heads.
That's wild that it's going to to be lighted.
Yeah.
Do you have any samples of it lighted?
I don't. I'm hoping. I asked Matt, can we get some for Train Fest in Milwaukee? So I'm hoping that we'll get a couple of samples in by then. I've only got really one sample here today, but we could get to that in a little bit. But it's not an actual train. It's a different product that we're working on. So I'll talk more about that a little bit later. But
I think the panelists here would love to see a sample.
Yeah. I wish we had more samples. I really do. But our factory's been really working overtime on getting stuff to us. So we should have some more samples soon. The latest sample that I couldn't grab because our guys are working on it right now was the Boston and Maine T1A Berkshire that they're working on right now. So that's I was hoping to show that here, but they're working on it, like I said. So Train Fest will have a lot more samples of stuff. So if you're going to Train Fest in Milwaukee, make sure you stop by. And actually, I'll see Tony in a couple of weeks. I'll be at the St. Louis RPM.
Next week.
About a week from now. Yeah. So that'll be fun to see everybody down there too. So if you're stopping by, have any questions for me, please stop by, say hi. I promise I'm as friendly as I look, so please don't hesitate to ask me any questions about stuff or anything like that. Always happy to help however I can.
That's great.
Now, Ken, my question here on these, with that round drum head, I keep thinking, why is there not a version with the Train World logo on the drum head and Bianco as the name of the car? Is this because it's Union Pacific?
I think only Tony would buy that.
I mean, I would like to have the Bianco car with the Train World drum head to run around on my track, but whatever.
That would be cool. I never thought of that, a Train World logo in the back. That would be cute.
Second run we'll do
that. A Train World, and then you get a Broadway logo on the back. That's not a bad. When you get a Model Train Resource logo on the back.
Yeah.
I don't know, Tony. I don't know. A JLWII2000 logo.
There's my exclusive right there.
There you go.
There you go.
Very cool. You know what? That's not a bad idea, Tony.
There you go. Your next Train World exclusive right there.
So let's go to what are you got going in? Yeah, in Steam, Steam and N-Scale.
I guess you could say I dressed for the occasion with the Santa Fe Northern shirt here. But we got those Santa Fe N-Scale 3751, the modernized version of it, coming out in N scale. We just announced those earlier this month. Those are going to be fantastic models too. We were just actually in Albuquerque, New Mexico, recording some sounds from the 2926. So we'll have some sounds of that incorporated into the model. But the 3751 as it is today, we've got a couple different versions of 3759. The way that it looks like in Kingman, Arizona, and the in-service version. Yeah, there's the couple of renders of it there. These locomotives have been heavily requested for us in N scale. And just like a lot of the other stuff that we've been offering, we've been looking into making these. And a lot of these details that you got on the HO scale version, for you HO skillers out there that maybe collect both HO and N, we're going to bring to the N scale version of this locomotive too. So we're really excited about those. Several different road numbers. And plus an unlettered version. So if you're looking to add your own railroad's name and number onto the tender, you can go ahead and do that. But lots of great riveting detail and everything like that. So again, another one that's been heavily requested, and orders have been coming in really, really hot so far. So if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and get your order in. I know we preach this a lot, but it really is a great way to make sure you get the model you want. And this has smoke too. So it's newly tooled and everything like that. So you're going to have another N scale steamer with smoke. Our Reading T1s had smoke, and they were really, really well received. And we, of course, announced it with the big boy and everything. But this is another example of incorporating more smoke into N scale steamers. And N scalers love Paragon 4. They've been really, really excited about it. Ken Silvestri came back from the N scale show a couple weeks ago, and he was just saying how many compliments he got from customers on Paragon 4 and how great the sounds are and how great the locomotives run and everything. So like I said, these are going to be fantastic models. And here's the version of it that you can see, the modern day version of it. And then there it is, pulling the 1992 employee special in the Midwest when it had some war bonnet diesels behind it. But yeah, these are going to be great N scale models. So you're definitely going to want to get your orders in for these too.
Curtis, what's the story on the smokestack thing? Is this the one that I've had a couple emails, and now, of course, I don't have the email in front of me, and, Ken made me get up early, so I've only had one cup of coffee, so I can't remember. What was the question on the smokestack, or the difference in those?
Yeah, so Santa Fe had 3 different versions of the smokestacks that they had on their Northerns. They had the traditional ones that you see there. They had the deflected curved ones that were at the top, and they had the extension smokestacks too. And as much as we wanted to include the other 2 options, the way that our N scale smoke unit works is that it's almost semi-attached to the front of the board there on the inside of the model. But the boiler being die-cast, we just don't have the space to offer like an accurately modeled version of that smoke unit or of the smoke stack onto the model. So the only reason that we didn't offer the extension ones is because of that. And it would have been a little bit difficult to try to stick a pipette or your syringe if you have one of our syringes into filling up smoke fluid. We don't want the needles breaking in there, and then you're having a bigger mess to work with on your locomotive than you would want. So that's just why we have the traditional one there, the shorter of the 3 offerings. But at some point down the road, we might offer maybe like a cover on it, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. And also it would be a little bit out of scale, and we're trying to keep the details and accuracy on these to a point. So that was what we've gotten a lot of questions about, was that. And then we also got questions of, are you going to offer them with the Alesco feed water heater on the top? And the tooling doesn't allow it without making really a big significant change to it. So assuming that these sell really well in this first run, we might look into offering the Alesco feed water heater on. There's 3 road numbers that had the Alesco feed water heater on the top. So we might offer those at some point down the road. But to start off, these are the ones that we're doing, and the ones that we got, again, asked about a lot to make, because a lot of N scalers are Santa Fe guys. So really excited to see how they react to these and how they get them, and have them running on the railroad at some point.
I knew it was big when 2 of my reviewers basically said, "Okay, we want to fight for it." I'm like, oh, all right, whoa. I'll try
Rock,
to get
paper,
two.
scissors. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know. But it was, you start getting these messages of, I'm calling dibs. I want to fight for this. Like, oh, hang on, guys. Let's keep it cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to go over the smoke for N scale. Broadway is really the only company who has made it successfully work in N scale. And to make an N scale engine smoke is so technically advanced and challenging. So I just want people to for their expectations of smoke. It's not an HO engine. It's not a huge engine or a O scale engine where you could fit a large smoke fluid tank. It's an N scale engine, so it's going to be a little shorter on the length of how long it could smoke. But I mean, just getting the smoke unit in a steam engine is just so technically advanced and amazing. So it's really awesome that Broadway is including this feature. But I just want people to know when they buy these things, don't expect it to smoke for a whole day.
Yeah, well, and the other thing too is that those smoke units are set on a timer.
Okay.
I think the default is 10 to 12 seconds or something like that, but you can have it last as long as a couple of minutes. You just have to change your CV settings for that.
I think that was a confusing thing. I'm glad you brought that up because I think a lot of people didn't know about that feature when they got the T1s. A lot of people calling up and asking about it. So they're like Curtis said, and how do you change that feature again?
It's a CV setting. I don't have the CV in front of me here, but it is a CV setting. It's in the manual. So if you want to go in and go through, and also we have a video on our YouTube channel kind of talking about the N scale smoke unit too, and like how you can properly fill it up with the syringe and the CV setting changes and all that stuff. So if you go onto our YouTube channel after you're done watching this and you want to go check that out, you can. But yeah, it is on a timer. So a lot of people will ask us, you got questions too, Ken, about how, why is it only lasted for a certain time, it's broken or whatever. No, it's just on a timer. And once it's done, you have to press the 7 key on your throttle again, and it'll start smoking again. So that's how you can keep it going. But like I said, there is a CV setting where you can go through and expand the length of time that you want to have that smoke unit run. Or if you just want to turn it off, if you don't like the smoke feature at all, you can always turn it off. But you can, again, like I said, go through your CV settings, go through your JMRI or whatever, or I guess I could tease this now because it's the perfect time to talk about it. We're actually coming out with a CV setter coming out soon, where we will be able to use it for both HO and N scale. It's kind of like our address changer. So this is our address changer. This is our CV setter. It's literally the same thing. It's just the software is done differently. So you'll be able to actually change the CVs on your HO and N scale locomotives. It reads the decoder, it reads the track, and it reads the CV settings on there. You can actually write your CV settings on here. Like I said, you have the instructions on the back, so you can go ahead and do that. We've been testing it for the last couple of months, and it works really well. So we'll actually have an announcement on that later on this month with more information on that. So it'll be a really cool feature to add to your railroad. And I know a lot of guys, I don't know about you, Tony, if you get any emails, or James, if you get any emails on this too, where JMRI sometimes for some guys just seems it gets a little over their head, or maybe they're at a club and there's always that one guy that knows how to program your stuff better. And then the other guys, I know in the clubs that I've been to, there's usually 2 or 3 guys that just know JMRI or know how to program stuff and change CVs and kind of get your engine fixing if you're not the tech savvy guy. Well, our address changer was the perfect thing to just change your address, super simple, and same sort of function, just changing your CVs. So we're going to have that coming out at some point. Like I said, an announcement later this month with more information on that. And I'm going to be making a video with our YouTube channel guys, and we're going to have a video on how that works and demonstrate it and everything like that. So like I said, we'll have an official announcement later this month, but that's a cool little tease that we can include in here to show you that we've got working too.
I like that. That is very cool. Because yes, and some of it does get. I was trying. My assistant editor's got one of those. It's all set up on his computer. So when I bring a locomotive to him saying I can't seem to get this, or I don't know what this is, plops it on his track, opens up his monitors. He's looking at all these things. I'm like, wow, and it's really cool. But it's like,
yeah,
whoa. And so, yeah, that's a real handy. I like that. That's very cool.
Yeah, and there's a lot of newer members or newer, I should say, modelers getting into the hobby now. And getting into DCC can be a little overwhelming, especially right in the beginning when you're just trying to, get set up and get into the hobby and everything. So the address changer was a good way to kind of make it a little bit simpler. And the CV setter is also another thing that can add on to that, especially when you're trying to figure out what's a CV and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of areas to that you got to figure out, but that's a good addition to have to your railroad that you can make things a little bit easier on yourself too.
Oh, Ken, you're
Ken,
muted.
I think you're muted.
Sorry about
There
that.
we go. That's all right.
I was joking with Curtis before the show. He showed me, and I was like, that looks like a Ghostbuster ghost tester.
EMF detector, yeah.
Very cool. But it looks sleek design, very cool, and people love the address changer. So I'm sure it'll be nice and easy to use.
Yeah, it'll be a great addition. Yeah, like we were saying.
James, you may have to bring out that Ghostbuster costume that you have for Halloween and do a video for it.
There it is.
There you go. Very, very cool. Yeah.
There you go. The sign too.
do a Broadway Ghostbuster episode YouTube video.
Yeah. What train should we make next?
This stuff's never too far. It's all within reach.
There you go.
Yeah. Actually, Curtis, OJ wants to see that again.
Oh, the CV setter. Yeah. So this is the Locomotive. And it's got the same sort of buttons on the top here where you can actually set your CV value here. You can press the button here to select the CV value. And then you got the button down here to, set it. And then it would be working the same thing where you would take the top off or loosen it up here. You would plug in the wires onto here, onto your programming track, and it would work the same way as our address changer. And the address changer, if you haven't seen it before or used it before, it basically just takes, like, if you have a locomotive that you buy from Train World and you want to program it to its road number at home, you just go ahead and hook this up to a programming track, and you plug in the power cord. There's a cord that comes with it here that you would plug into the top here. There's a little socket there that you plug it into for power, and then you would use your wires to plug it into the track and onto here, and that's how you would go ahead and address it. And there's, like I said, instructions on the back. I know people don't like reading manuals. That's why we put it on the back. So you have that there too, to go ahead and, walk you through step by step of how to do it.
That's the first thing that, as much as the buttons and everything on the front are cool, Curtis, what caught my eye when you turned it around, I'm like, there you go. Because I would hook the whole thing up and start, okay, what buttons do I start hitting? Oh, I should have read the thing. And it's like,
yeah,
oh, it's right on the back. That's
right on the back.
Yeah,
yep.
Is there any brands it doesn't play well with, or have you guys tested out all the different?
We've tested it out on everything, and it's worked pretty well so far. The only thing that we've that we had to make a couple of software tweaks to is that it seemed to at some point do two at once, which was a little confusing, but that's been fixed. So it's ready to go. So we just have to go ahead and make the announcement and make a couple of other little tweaks to it. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much good to go. If I were to take this into one of our testing rooms, I could take it to one of the testing rooms and it could go ahead and do it right now. So it would definitely work. But yeah, I just saw OJ's comment. A lot of old school guys don't read the instructions, and that's why we put it on the back, because we know we would get a lot of calls and stuff about it.
That's why you got to pick up Model Railroad News and have that in-depth review on how to use it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Lots of good stuff, I tell you.
A lot of good stuff. Should we get to the big one? This is
we've got a huge announcement here in HS team that
the big one, the Pennsylvania Railroad S1 duplex brass hybrid. That's been probably at least in the time that I've been here at Broadway, and I know I was talking to Ken and Bob and a few others too. I think we've been getting this request for years now on it, and it's finally coming to fruition, and it's coming to market. The brass hybrid PR S1. It's going to be a great model. The early renderings of it look really cool too. Again, no samples yet. I hope to have a sample by Train Fest so people can get a look on it, but it's bigger than a big boy. which is going to be saying something. So it's going to be really exciting to see those come in. And a lot of people have been asking, I don't know if you've gotten the same question, Ken, or not, but about 18-inch radius curves. People have been asking about how will this navigate 18-inch radius curves. Well, I do have one of our older models of the Pennsylvania Railroad T1, and it's going to be kind of the same thing where the blind drivers are going to be drivers 2 here at the front and 3. So there's going to be blind drivers here that will help navigate those curves. It's going to be working in the same sort of way. So it'll be a great locomotive. It might look a little weird going on 18-inch radius curves, not going to lie. But if you do have a bigger layout, it'll look right at home, especially if you model Pennsylvania Railroad. I mean, this is going to be a must-have for a lot of Pennsylvania Railroad guys. And I got a lot of comments from people that aren't Pennsy guys, but just want it because it looks so cool. And that a lot of people are really excited about it too. And there you go. There's the Pennsylvania Railroad version there with the logo in the middle and then the spread out letterings of Pennsylvania on the top there. Just a beautiful, beautiful model that'll be coming your way.
And just to set the stage, and then I'll let Tony talk about this because he's got a beautiful picture up there. Again, this is brand new announcement, unbelievable HO announcement, the HO Broadway Limited S1. And this is going to be tremendous, beautiful steam locomotive. And I was talking to Curtis before the show. I think this was announced maybe a week or two ago or very recently. And we're already above our expected numbers. So this is going to be huge.
Yeah. And a lot of people, like I said, have been asking for it. So this has been a long time coming. And for the price point of it, I mean, if you were to try to go get it, the brass model, we were talking about the Kenefic car being, expensive. The same thing with this. This would be, well over $1,000. And, Train World's got a great price on them right now. So if you wanted to get a pre-order in, and we're still taking orders on it between now and, the order deadline coming up, which will be in November. So you'll have plenty of time to get your orders in, but it's still a great model that a lot of people are going to want. And a lot of people are going to really want to add to their collection. It's going to be coming in the fall of next year. So it kind of has a little bit of a time coming. The order deadline, like I said, is in November 7th of this year. So you still got time, but it's just such a sleek looking locomotive. Some customers have asked us, are we going to do the removing of the skirting on the side there? And that might be an option for the second run. But for this first run, we're sticking with just the shields up, and it'll be a very popular model coming your way. And I know as soon as we announce it, we got floods. I think every evaluator that we have or, influencer that we have asked us immediately for, 1 or 2 SKUs at the most to come in and get their order in. And I know that a lot of guys are going to be wanting these too. So we were talking about the Pennsylvania passenger cars earlier. You're going to need some power to pull it. There's your power to pull it right there. So definitely going to be worth the wait for these for these engines. Just such a classic, sleek looking design to it too. Just so cool to look at.
It is really awesome. I love the white walls on the drivers there. That's really sleek. The one thing that surprised me, and I guess it's from some of the non-Pensy fans, is the emails that I got saying, was this real? And how many were there? And it's like, there's one and Pensy only. But I didn't think about it. But I've had a handful of people saying, did Broadway just make this up or what is that? I was like, no. Look, it was real. It is. It's like, that's just incredible. But boy, it's really, I love the horn. I think I mentioned this to you, Curtis, when we talked on it, that I think that's the little horn down there on above the pilot and below the boiler face there. But boy, that's an amazing looking piece. And this one, what is the American Railroads? Again, we said there's one, but the same one, it showed up at, was it at the
1939 New York World's Fair? Yeah. And it actually kind of, from what I was reading when researching it, it actually ran in place. It was like on a treadmill sort of thing, I guess, that they had set up there. So it logged I think it logged its first 50,000 miles by just running in place at the World's Fair, which is crazy to think about.
Wow.
And I guess the path that they had to get to the World's Fair, they had to remove certain things out of the way because it was just so big and massive. It couldn't navigate, just like the prototype. It couldn't navigate the certain radius of curves to get to the fairgrounds and everything. But it only ran between Chicago and Crestline, Ohio. That's where it was prototypically found when it was in passenger service. And it was kind of a way for the PRR to show off the technology of duplex steam locomotives at the time. And it was just such a really cool, sleek, streamlined design. And like I said, it's bigger than a big boy. So it's going to be the largest locomotive that we've made in HO scale, which is going to be really exciting to see how people react to that when they get it and when they put it on their railroad and they start running it. It's going to be awesome.
I think the American Railroads one. I mean, the Penske's awfully cool, but yeah, that American Railroad scheme is the one I think is really an eye catcher and a neat collector's item because of what it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
And let's see if I can find them here. Are the other there's prototypical Penske, and then you've also got
prototypical
a
Penske.
Tuscan.
Yeah, American Railroads is the other prototypical one. Then we've got an unlettered one, and then we've also got the Tuscan Red Fantasy scheme. So if you wanted to add a little bit of a different perspective to the S1, you could do it that way too. But it's hard to believe that these are just renders because you almost think that these are the actual model itself, based on looking at it.
You mentioned, what is it? Stephen Wilder does these. I think it's
Yeah.
just this, I see this stuff. It's like, oh, I want to do these. That I got to learn how to do this so I can. This is such a cool looking thing, and they look so. And that's another thing I get is emails. Is that real? Do they already have it done? And it's like, no, look real close. It's it's like a Pixar thing that it looks real,
Yeah.
but nope, it's like a Toy Story character, not quite, but there it is. Let me find that Tuscan one because I think it's really there's the unlettered.
Yep.
And Tony, do you know the history with the World's Fair?
Well, it's like Curtis said, it displayed there as American Railroads lettered, and then what Penske ran it just, what was it, Curtis? You said Chicago to out of
between
Crestline?
Chicago and Crestline. It wasn't it was too big. It couldn't fit on a turntable, so they had to physically wide the locomotive in each location. So they wide it in Chicago out of Chicago's Union Station on the Burlington trackage there. And then when it got to Crestline, it was taken off the whichever train it was pulling in was wide at Crestline, Ohio. That was where it could be turned around again to head back, back west. But I know there's some either discrepancies, and Tony, maybe you know about that, but that supposedly it had a speed record associated with it or something like that along those lines.
Yeah, I did see that someplace, and I don't think I put it in when I was writing it up, but yeah, I do. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think it did. I like the dog park on the back of the tender. See, if I was running that, I could let my dog run loose back there while I was running the steam locomotive. Yeah. And this, of course, will have smoke. It'll have Paragon Force sound. It'll work with Rolling Thunder. And this is a brass hybrid, correct?
Yep, brass hybrid locomotive. Yeah, and a lot of guys have asked us too, why couldn't it be die-cast? Because I think a lot of guys, when they hear brass hybrid, they think that it's going to be more expensive. A lot of the times, it's coming down to the tooling costs. It's cheaper for us to make it as a brass model because the parts are more readily available in brass, and that sort of thing, than having to rebuild it all from scratch as a die-cast model. And that's why it would cost more essentially to the customer if it was a die-cast model versus a brass model. But with all of our brass hybrids, handcrafted boilers, and the details on it too. Some parts are going to be either die-cast, like the chassis would be die-cast, or the some like the cylinders would be plastic to just kind of help with some of the tooling costs on it to kind of keep it easier for us on price point. But a lot of it will be very detailed brass, and those handrails there too. You see the marker lights on it. Gosh, just what a gorgeous locomotive, and just so big. We've been nicknaming it around here the big one at the office because of just how not just big of an announcement, but big literally of how big the locomotive is. So when we get some samples of those, again, I hope to have a sample of one. I don't think it'll be an actual brass sample. It probably would be a 3D printed one, just to check the running gear and everything like that. I'm hoping we have a 3D printed one for Train Fest in Milwaukee this year. Wow. No promises, but I'm hoping that we'll have a couple of samples to show off by then.
And of course, the other thing too, when this was right before the announcement, you and I talked on, the question was, will it make a 24 radius? Will it make a 22 radius? And you're saying 18 with the blind? the blind
Yeah,
driver design?
we followed the same sort of route as we did with our T1s in HO scale. So we think that it'll do it, but we actually won't actually know until we test it. And that's what I'm hoping when we get some samples by then, we'll be able to actually test it. We have several different circular layouts here that have different radius of curves. Our sound engineer, Joe and Aiden, their office has 4 tracks of different radius of curves. So they'll be able to test it all through there and get everything set up that way too. So yeah, we'll see when we get it, but we project that it'll do 18. And if that does change, we'll of course let customers know that, hey, it doesn't actually do 18, it does 22 or whatever. But we really are confident that it can do 18. But like I said, we won't actually know until we get the actual samples in.
What is the connection between? I'm curious on how's that going to, I mean, is that part of the locomotive? You know, this looks like kind of a shroud, or, you know, to make it look sleek, they did that.
Yeah.
How's that going to work in the model? How will that design be done?
It's from what I understand when I was talking to Matt and a few other people around the office, it's kind of like if you remember our Broadway daylight cars, those articulations in the middle where they kind of have that flexible sort of plastic in there and the rubber that kind of mats it. That's what I'm gathering is going to be similar to that. But I don't know for sure. Like I said, we won't actually be able to see kind of how it all comes together when we get some samples in. But that's kind of how we're projecting it to be, as similar to that. So when it does go through the curves, it'll be able to bend appropriately, and it's not going to be one solid piece. But like I said, we'll find out more when we get some samples in and what works, what doesn't work, all that sort of stuff.
Amazing. Wow. And what's the deadline on this is?
The deadline for that is November 7th, and it'll arrive in the fall of 2025. And again, offered in Paragon 4 sound. And there's also the Stealth version too. Stealth is the DCC ready version. It's about a cheaper alternative for you. So if you can't afford the sound version, or if you want to add in your own aftermarket decoder because you don't like sound or whatever your reason may be, you can get the Stealth version too. And those will be coming in the same time, fall of 2025, with the order deadline being November of this year. November 7th, I should say, of this year.
Wow.
Lots of good stuff, guys.
I'm not sure if it was the History Channel or one of the main channels on cable. They were talking about the history of the World's Fair, and I just find it incredible. Obviously the World's Fair is about like the future and, the world's achievements and accomplishments, and just having this engine would be just probably a remarkable sight, going there and just seeing something so futuristic looking. And then there's also more train history with Walt Disney and him wanting to do the tram and everything. So there's just so many train connection with the World's Fair. I just find it really interesting. And we over in New York we had a World's Fair as well, and over in Queens. But it's pretty amazing. I find the history fascinating, and to have a stunning engine like that. It's going to be gorgeous. James, which one you going to get?
I like the American Railroads one, I think, but I always like researching the history and seeing what specific passenger cars were pulled by these. If you can find, snapshots of photos, sometimes it's hard to piece together exactly, and then recreating those consists is always fun. That's why I've made my layout kind of half with concrete ties and half with wooden ties, so I can have that timeless look on part of my layout. So, but I think the American Railroads one is really nice looking.
It just does have like an elegance to it, and just it's a fact that there's none that currently, or it was only one built. The fact that it doesn't exist anymore is a shame, because I really would. That would be such an awesome museum piece for some railroad museum out there to go ahead and get the S1 in their collection by any means. And I don't think anybody's going to be
what they do with the S1. They just destroyed it?
It was scrapped. Yeah.
Wow, what a shame.
Models like that make you want to time travel.
Yeah. from what I understand is that the T ones were showing to be more favorable for the Penzi just because if they weren't so stricken to in terms of like radius and everything like that because of their size. So at least again from my understanding is that they favor the T1s more, and so they kind of scrap the project of getting more of the S1s built altogether. That's why there's only one that was built at the time for PRR. But yeah, just such a when you think of like just classic streamliners, like streamlined steam, I think this comes to the mind for a lot of people with that sort of bullet nose on the front with the headlight, the shrouding from the headlight to the side of the boiler, the skirting, the look on the front of the pilot in front of the coupler. It just looks so dang cool on all fronts.
Yeah.
It's really just such a cool locomotive.
But you also have to put yourself in like the shoes of 1939. It was the World's Fair. So imagine yourself in 1939 when cars, are there, but it's not like futuristic or anything. And then this thing looks like a torpedo. It's probably like unbelievable. It's, and that's before like cars were like that's before the muscle car or cars were like futuristic or cool or whatever. This thing that probably would have been an amazing experience just going to the World's Fair in 1939 and seeing something like this. It just looks so futuristic even today. We're in 2024 and it just looks futuristic even in 2024. That's amazing.
Wow.
The closest we'll probably ever come to seeing something like that is they're in the process of building from scratch a T1, a Pennsylvania T1. So if they get that done, then it's probably 20, 15, maybe 10 or 15 feet shorter than the S1, Curtis?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But if that ever gets to the rails, that's going to bring a lot of attention.
And Pensy Joe had an interesting thing. There were plans to preserve the S1, but after World War II, funds for motive power were short, and the S1 was one of those first to be scrapped for the extra money to buy more diesel power. Interesting.
Wow.
Pensy Joe would sound like he'd be the guy to know about that. No offense, Joe.
Very cool.
Beautiful. Oh, we're excited, and again, the pre-orders have been going like crazy on this. Everybody's gonna battle it out to really get these. So make sure you get your pre-order in because Broadway is going to sell out quickly on this. And I'm not sure if this is going to be a one-time run only. So
I hope not. We'd like to do more.
Well,
I'd like to do more if they keep coming in the way they're coming in.
I would hedge your bet and say get it in first now, just in case, because there's really not too many options on this and to do. But it's the first time around, everybody's going to want one. So make sure you get your order in.
And also, should we bring up the fact that you could still get a hat? We haven't talked about that.
Oh yeah.
Hat
we are doing a raffle. And so put in hashtag Broadway Limited, the state you're from, and we're going to raffle off a hat. We're going to ship it to someone. So we'll go with that. And also, Curtis, before we wrap this up, I did want to talk about the switchers.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have been announcing so much product. It's amazing. And this is new tooling as well.
Yeah,
and
the
Tony,
B6 switchers.
On this
the B6 switchers is our first attempt at making a smaller scale steam engine. We've offered a lot of bigger steam from Pacifics to Mikados, but never done any switchers before. So with the help of the Pennsylvania Railroad Technical and Historical Society, we were able to get some drawings of the B6, and we're offering them, of course, available for purchase and pre-order. So if you haven't done so already, get your order in, because if these little switchers sell well, not only would it add to a possible second run of the B6, but it also adds to the possibility of us looking into doing more road-specific steam switchers, Union Pacific, Santa Fe, all of that sort of stuff. New York Central. But yeah, there you go. You got the image of it there. Bunch of different versions. And you can go ahead and get your order in through Train World or, wherever you want to get your order in. But we prefer the guys at Train World. They're great. And you can go ahead and look at not only just the photos of these, but we've got renders on our website too. So if you want to go check out the renders of those and see what they look like, firsthand, those will be great. And you got a lot of great details on these, and you can read more about the history of the locomotive and everything on our website. But the B6 would be really great addition to your railroad. And these were all over the place. They were used on branch lines, in yards, freight yards, passenger yards, everywhere. So if you need a switcher, these are a great first step. And of course, they'll have smoke and everything too. So you're going to be really, really excited for these locomotives to come in. And really cool little switcher that we've, again, never been done in terms of smaller switchers, smaller steam engines. So this could be another opportunity for, if you get your order in, you can possibly lead to seeing more road-specific steam switchers, maybe an 080, maybe, I think there's maybe an 010 out there that was produced somewhere or whatever. But there's a lot of different options for us to go down that pathway. So definitely get your order in. Make sure that you go ahead and, order the one that you want, get your pre-order in to reserve it. Because these engines are going to be great, and you're definitely going to want to get these locomotives in your hands and on your railroad. Perfect for a lot of different areas of your railroad, branch line service, like I said, yards, whatever you need it for.
And Ken, isn't that your exclusive?
Yeah. So I was just reviewing the numbers yesterday, and we oversold from what we were expected to do on our Long Island exclusive. So we had to up the numbers. So make sure you get your pre-order in, because they're going to sell out. And it's really unique. And what I love about Broadway is that there's really not a lot of small, high detailed steam switching locomotives on the market. And with this B6, and also you had the E6 recently as well.
Yeah, the Atlantic.
They really could go on any layout.
Yeah, and they're great little locomotives. I know that we get asked a lot, are you going to do smaller engines? And this is a good way to kind of break into that and see how it's received, especially for. I know a lot of people will give us a little bit of flack for always doing Penzi stuff, but Penzi stuff always sells. I mean, Ken, you'll be the first to say Penzi stuff always sells. And for us to do, these locomotives, here's the renders of it. That's not the actual model, but you can see a lot of the great details on those locomotives, from like the dynamo right behind the headlight to, you got the little marker lights on the front there, the number plate on the front of the smoke box door. You got the tender arrangement and stuff like that too. There's just a lot of great details on that. The bell with the bell cord going into the cab. Look at that. A lot of great little locomotives to add to your railroad. And there's a bunch of different ones too, a bunch of different road numbers and a couple different lettering options. That's the post-war appearance. We also have the pre-war appearance, and then we also have the Futura lettering too. So if you want to go ahead and get one of those different versions of it, that'll fit right in at home on your railroad for sure. And again,
there's also been some. Sorry, Curtis. There's also been some distributors doing some exclusive paint schemes that we've been carrying as well. Different, unique, and we've been doing very well. It's people like this design. Really cool.
Yeah, it's a really great locomotive. We've had a lot of great, fun, unique stuff that we've announced this year. We really think this has been a really good year for us. I mean, we've talked about a lot of the great stuff so far tonight, and this is just kind of a good way to kind of cap it off, if you will, with the smaller steam of everything. And it's just such a cool, unique little steamer. And like I said, it opens up the door for, like the business cars, more possibilities for other small scale steam if we can get, a lot more orders in. And I shouldn't say that as like it's not selling. It's selling really well. But if we see these results for other projects, it just opens up the door for more, road specific, smaller scale steam. And we're really excited about these. Again, hoping to get some samples in at some point in the future here, so we can not only show it on social medias, but bring it to shows and stuff too. The Class D Shay has been traveling around the shows a lot, and a lot of people love taking photos of that. And that project has been really, really good too. So we've got a lot of great stuff coming out, and it's always just good to see people get excited about new steam, specifically road specific stuff. And it's just another great addition to that.
I think those, as you mentioned, that one has gotten a lot of attention. And James, I think you'll agree with me. We all get hooked on the big boys and the awesome, like we were just looking at that S1, but this little 060 really, I mean, it's a real workhorse. I mean, as far as what is something you'd really operate and do a lot of stuff with, sure, running those big steam locomotives, everybody gets excited with those. But yeah, the little switcher is both very cool because so much detail all over it, and again, what it will be able to do. And I think, do I remember right? Does it have a capacitor thing in it too? Because of switching.
All Paragon 4s have capacitors in it. So when you put it on your track, you just need a couple seconds just to charge up those capacitors, and it'll be good to go all over your dirty track if you haven't cleaned your track in a while, or any bumpy track too, anything like that. It'll be perfect for that. And like you were saying, Tony, these can be found anywhere. And there's only one of these left, and it's at Strasbourg. And so that's a different version. Some people ask us, why didn't we do the Strasbourg one? And there's several details on the Strasbourg B6 that don't match the ones that we're offering here. These ones that we have are the more commonly found ones. But assuming that, again, the orders continue in as they have been for these so far, we could possibly offer the Strasbourg one in a second run of these locomotives, with a couple of just different detailed versions and stuff like that. But it is good to kind of mix things up a little bit. And I know, like you guys were saying, big steam is always very exciting, but when you see something little like this, it doesn't garner enough attention in terms of like what people are, excited about, but it still is a really cool model. And it still is a great piece of locomotive that you can add to your railroad on many different occasions and stuff like that. So the Long Island one thing, and it smokes. Yep. And the Long Island one, I think, is probably my favorite one out of all of them. I just think that the Long Island stuff, Ken, you probably know it more than I do. I think Long Island stuff is just so underrated, but it's so cool. The different things that come out for Long Island Railroad stuff. It's just such a cool piece of locomotives and rolling stock to add to your collection if you get the chance to, if it fits your layout at all.
Yeah, and usually the O-scalers get a ton of Long Island stuff.
They do.
Now, with the HO stuff, we're dabbling into it, and I know our local in-store guys will be thrilled and really excited about this. And it's nice to see Long Island do well. So it's a nice little line.
Yeah,
these little locomotives. It's like the smaller they are, the more you can appreciate the little details. And the more, it's kind of mind blowing to me that you guys put in smoke and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The Lindbergh steam locomotive that you guys did, that thing was just amazing to me. Like how you guys could squeeze in all that smoke effects and detail and such a small locomotive. Got the classification lights down by the pilot lit, and very neat.
It's such a cool little engine, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. And, I know there's a ton more to talk about. I mean, you're doing the SD70s that are diecast, right?
Yep, those will be coming out too later on. I believe end of this year, I believe, is what we were looking at it with. I got to double check. I think it was, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the N scale ones will be coming in a couple months. The HO scale ones are coming in September. So just a couple months away from those two.
Make sure everybody gets their pre-orders on the diecast SD70s, because everybody's like, oh, another SDS. This is different. This is a different SD70. And the pre-orders were close to selling out on many paint schemes. So make sure you get your pre-orders in. And I'm sure when James and Tony do reviews on how highly detailed and different and unique these engines are, people are going to be scrambling and want to upgrade what they already have. So I think that's going to be really different.
Whatever you do, just don't attach it to your wall. We don't want you to pull down the wall from inside your house or anything like that. Don't recommend that, because it's going to have a lot of pulling power. But
one quick note about those is a brass manufacturer recently reintroduced the HO scale SD70 ACEs for really, really high price. And I was talking to a bunch of Facebook folks about it. And they said, well, it just looks different on metal. I said, well, then might as well go with the Broadway one that has diecast. If it's if it's going to have a realistic appearance on metal, the paint job, then I might as well go with the cast one and save myself about 90%.
Yeah. And it'll have those have smoke too. So those diecast aces will have smoke. So that'll be another fun feature to have to your railroad too. But those will be really fun. Joe and Aiden are working on the Boston Maine Berkshire, but they're also working on the diecast ace. James, I think you saw the diecast ace with me when we were in Indianapolis this year at the World's Greatest Hobby Show. So it's been making its rounds. I think I'll have it in time. I think for the St. Louis RPM, Tony, I think I'll have the Boston and Maine Berkshire ready for that show too. So there'll be some new stuff to show off too.
And Tony, any reviews or Broadway Limited of these engines coming up in the magazine, or which article can they go back and buy for some of these reviews that you did? I know you did a million of them.
There's so much. The Jeep 30s and 35s, I think the 35s were on the cover recently, and both those 4-axle EMDs have been very popular. So if you're interested in that, I think it was the June edition or May edition, and then
just subscribe for the whole year.
July's Model Railroad News that's out right now, I think, has the whole group of the Southern High Hoods, the SD45, SD40, Jeep 35, Jeep 30s. You can see all of those. So yeah, there's so much neat stuff from Broadway. But yeah, shop.whiteriverproductions.com will get you links to all of the magazines and such that I do.
Awesome. And we've done videos too. Tony and I have done videos on a lot of the different stuff that we've talked about today. So if you go on his YouTube channel, and James and I talked about the UP business cars. So go ahead and check out their respective YouTube channels too. We got a lot of different areas of where you can learn more about the cars or learn more about, what we're offering and all that sort of stuff too. So if you're tuning in a little bit late and you missed the conversations earlier, there's a lot of resources out there too that you can go. Besides just the magazine, you can always get the magazine. Magazines are fantastic, by the way. But getting it through, YouTube and other social media platforms, we try to keep everything up to date, so people are getting aware of what's coming out and when's it coming out. And I think those are the two most commonly asked questions: what's coming out and when is it coming out? Are the most two common questions we get.
And James, you just most recently did a ES44 for the Broadway Limited review as well, and on those, a bunch of different paint schemes already sold out from all the distributors. It's been crazy demand on those.
Yeah, the paint schemes were kind of the main story of this latest release of ES44s, because they chose paint schemes that hadn't been done before and that were much needed, like the CSX Heritage Unit, the Baltimore and Ohio, or the St. John's Express, which has that hapag orange. And then the UP, they're the first manufacturer to put out a UP nose. They've moved the flag to the nose on Union Pacific and put Union Pacific back on the long hood for the UP versions. So those three specifically were kind of first ever releases in those paint schemes. And then they've upped their details too. And there's been a lot of Broadway coverage from the SD45, the F3s, F7s,
the Sharks,
Shark noses.
Yeah, Sharks. Yeah.
So I've got a lot of content. Broadway Limited actually moved into first place for most viewed manufacturer on my channel early last year, I believe it was, or middle last year. So they're just cranking stuff out.
Do we get a gold medal, James? Do we get like some sort of little like token of that or something?
Hey, Ken Silvestri was gunning for that for a while. He's like,
yeah.
How many views are we down?
Ken Silvestri picked up the cash prize. You didn't hear about that?
Oh yeah. He told me the weather in Bermuda was excellent.
Yeah,
he was having a great time.
But lots of great stuff, lots of new arrivals. You could head to trainworld.com. We carry all the Broadway Limited items, new arrivals, pre-orders, lots of great deals. So check it out. And I want to thank Curtis and Tony and James for coming on the show this morning. I know it's bright and early, but we really appreciate it. And there's always so much to cover. It's amazing. And that's why, bringing on guys like Tony and James on their respective channels, whether it's Model Train Resource, Model Railroad News, or JLWII2000 on YouTube. And Curtis does a tremendous job getting the word out there and promoting all these announcements. It's getting dizzying sometimes. It's like so many new products. Your head turns all the time. But between, I think, all four of us, I think we're trying to do our best to make sure you never miss an announcement.
Yeah. And that's why it's important. I know people sometimes don't like getting emails, but it's always important to get the emails. It's always important to get, up to date on social media. So go ahead and follow all the social media platforms from us here at Broadway or Train World or James or Tony. I mean, you'll never miss a beat, really, when you have multiple outlets to get your coverage in.
Absolutely.
Always you guys being able to deliver that is really helpful, because even as much as I have my ear to the ground in this hobby, I miss stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just pre-ordered an item yesterday with Ken that was announced 3 or 4 months ago, and somehow I missed. So, it's always something, and it's good that when a manufacturer is out there broadcasting, it may seem like a shotgun approach, but it's really helpful, because that coupled with the fact that pre-orders are now the main vehicle to getting your product, or else it might not be there. It's kind of, we're dependent on the manufacturers to get that word out. So we appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we always get a couple of surprises, it seems like, when we have the shows with Train World. That to me, I like being part of it because of, like, we saw the CV unit that you're going to bring out.
Yeah. The CV center here. Yeah.
And you tease that those heavyweight passenger cars may be in scale releases in the future. So always never miss a Train World TV show, because I always end up getting some kind of
I didn't know about the Reading GP30. I had no idea that was a museum locomotive, possibly getting restored, and also the first production GP30. That's all news to me. So that's going on the pre-order list too.
And Tony and James, what's your I guess number one out of everything we talked about or not talked about? What's your biggest, most exciting item that you're looking forward for from Broadway?
For me, it's still that it's going to be the Union Pacific business cars and some of the heavyweight business cars they're doing too. I'm really excited about their passenger lineup and the business cars. So I can't wait to see those. And so that's my 2024. And they've got stuff coming out in 2025 that I'm going to be really excited about too.
I would agree. Yeah, the Kinefic, the UP business car, I just can't get enough of both the price, what it's going to have. I can't wait to see it. I think it's easily was the announcement of the year. It seems like that I've had more emails, more excitement over that. So yeah, the Kinefic cars should be awesome.
That's awesome. And everybody out there, put it in the chat. We'll see if you agree with Tony or James. What's the announcement of the year from Broadway? We want to see what you guys think. And don't forget about the raffle. Put in hashtag Broadway Limited, the state you're from, and we'll ship out a hat for a lucky winner. But lots of great stuff.
What scale is that hat, Ken?
It's multi-scale.
Multi-scale. Okay.
Very good. And we got a couple of people already chiming in. SD70 diecast, can't wait. So lots of good stuff.
Lots of options to go from. That's for sure.
That's right. And did I forget anything?
I'm sure there's more Broadway stuff. We mentioned those sharks briefly. I think I have the sharks in one of the new Model Railroad News too. I absolutely loved all the fantasy roads that I cover those, and wow, yeah, that again, there's just so much.
The
Oh, the
Q2,
Q2, that's another
yeah.
one. Yep.
Lots
A lot of good
stuff.
options for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah, the
Well,
shark. Oh, I did just dawn on me. We did kind of got a little under, I guess, under the radar with the 3751 announcements, but we do have a new run of N scale F units, new paint schemes for that too, including a couple that are actually preserved. We're doing Clinchfield 800. We're also doing CNO 8016, which was at the North Carolina Transportation Museum for a while there. And we got some other really cool paint schemes. Amtrak N scale F units are coming. Santa Fe Yellow Bonnet is coming too. You can find the full list of paint schemes at our website, and you'll be able to check them out there. Western Pacific, a lot of different ones. So go ahead and check those out too, because you'll be able to get your orders in for those. And I think, Ken, you have a Train World exclusive Christmas F unit from us for N scale, if I'm not mistaken, for that newest run.
I can't even keep up, Curtis. Tony keeps on sending me emails saying you're doing. I lose track of everything. I really can't even keep up. We're doing so much with you guys, and it's really working out to be a great partnership between Broadway Limited and us, and it's exciting because it helps the hobby, and it's something different. We try to pick some unique or different stuff that normally doesn't work out for other people. So we always like it. But yeah, I think we're doing something with Christmas with you guys, and
yep, it's an F3. I just looked it up really quick. Yeah, it's an F3.
Okay, good.
Yeah, F3A Christmas. It's got the Merry Christmas on the side, some Christmas trees on there, reef on the front of it. Yeah. You can find that on our website.
Tony's drooling already.
There's a lot of great schemes, yeah. And I like the Gulf Mobile in Ohio.
Yeah, that's
the
another one
tricolor paint scheme of those. Yeah, those will be nice.
Very cool. Well, we're excited, and hopefully we could do this more often, because there's just so much to catch up, and we're already at an hour and a half in the morning.
I know.
So I'm sure a lot of people skipped over work and running late to work to join this, but we appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Curtis, Tony, James, for joining us. And you can get all your Broadway Limited product at trainworld.com. Shop online 24/7. And thanks, everyone, for joining. We really appreciate it.